The U.S. Department of Defense has approved the sale of up to 48 F-35A fifth-generation fighters to Saudi Arabia, following months of high-level discussions within the Pentagon, which has left the decision with the White House reviving whether to offer the fighters to the Gulf state. And this news has been reported by a very credible source, Reuters, confirming that Saudi Arabia has officially requested the United States to acquire the F-35 fighter jets. The decision was taken ahead of a visit to the United States by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who during previous visits to the country was assessed by analysts to have faced significant pressure to increase defense procurements from the United States. The sale will require further approvals at the cabinet level, a sign-off from President Donald Trump, and notification of Congress before proceeding. If procured, the fighters are expected to replace the Royal Saudi Air Force's fleet of aging Tornado attack jets and eventually possibly its small Eurofighter fleet. The F-35 has previously only been marketed to NATO allies and a small number of non-NATO developed economies such as South Korea and Switzerland, with a sale to Saudi Arabia potentially marking a turning point in the program after which it is offered to a wider range of clients. Unconfirmed reports indicate that the Trump administration has been positively inclined towards approving sales to Morocco and the United Arab Emirates, with a policy shift potentially allowing for further sales to potential clients such as Indonesia and Thailand. The loosening of restrictions on F-35 exports may be influenced by both the unfavorable trends currently affecting the U.S. economy, which would make tens of billions of dollars of additional export orders a highly welcome development. The expected fielding of F-47 sixth-generation fighters by the mid-2030s is also likely to make baseline variants of the fifth-generation F-35 appear less technologically sensitive. Saudi Arabia has long been provided access to the United States' most advanced military aircraft, having been one of just 3 countries to purchase the top U.S. Air Force fighter, the F-15S, during the Cold War alongside Japan and Israel, before being the first in the world to acquire a heavily modernized 4+ generation variant of the aircraft, the F-15SA, in the 2010s. And this F-15SA is considered the second-best variant among all F-15 versions. The only aircraft ranked above it is the F-15EX, which the United States has not sold to any country except Israel. This is because the U.S. has a long-standing policy that any weapons or fighter jets provided to Israel will not be given in the same category or capability to any other nation in the region. This is also the reason why the U.S. has not supplied the F-35 to any Middle Eastern country other than Israel. Even Turkey, despite being a NATO member, was removed from the F-35 program on various pretexts. Many analysts believe that the U.S. will never supply F-35s to any Muslim-majority country. A similar situation occurred with the UAE, whose F-35 deal was also suspended. First, the United States made the UAE sign the Abraham Accords, requiring it to recognize Israel in exchange for the F-35 deal. The UAE agreed and signed the accords, but later, the U.S. refused to provide the F-35s to the UAE despite that agreement. However, it now appears that Saudi Arabia might become the first Muslim country to receive the F-35 in the future. The supply of F-35s could ensure that the country does not place orders for the rival Chinese J-35 fifth-generation fighter, which has a significantly superior flight performance, longer range, and larger sensor suite while being less costly to procure. President Trump previously highlighted that offering advanced armaments to Gulf states was critical to prevent China or Russia from making inroads into these key markets. Although Riyadh was in the early 2020s seen to increasingly be balancing its geopolitical position between the Western Bloc and China, the success of the United States and its strategic partners in toppling the Syrian government in December 2024 was considered a turning point in the regional balance of power that has left Western dominance effectively unchallenged. This may be a factor in the decision to favor the F-35 over Chinese alternatives. The loosening of export restrictions could have particularly detrimental impacts on European fighter programs, which have been able to achieve sales exclusively in countries which, for political reasons, have not been allowed to purchase the more sensitive F-35. It may also derail ongoing efforts by Boeing to market additional F-15 to the Royal Saudi Air Force. In the end, I would just say that Saudi Arabia's defense budget is probably ranked 4th or 5th in the world, even higher than India's. It is also the largest defense customer of the United States. However, in my personal opinion, Saudi Arabia will not receive the F-35, as the U.S. will always ensure that Israel maintains a military edge in the Middle East. And even if Saudi Arabia or any other Middle Eastern countries eventually receive the F-35, it is very likely that there will be certain limitations on them. the variants provided to Saudi Arabia or other Arab nations would probably not include the same advanced features or capabilities as the top versions currently operated by Israel. That's all for today's update. Please subscribe and like this video.